Hi there, it's Llarold, and today I'm going to be talking about patch 10.2, which was just announced yesterday. So there's a lot to talk about in this patch, and at first I really want to focus in on tank changes and tank tier set bonuses. So we'll start out with the tank changes, and oh wow, they already nailed it with tanks. They're perfect, great. To actually look at what's changing with tanks, nothing with DK, nothing with, well, Druid's getting 2 seconds off of Innervate duration, great. No changes to Monk, no changes to Paladin, and for Warrior, no changes at all for the entire class. Again, they're perfect. Now, notably, one thing that is actually changing with Demon Hunter, which we don't really know the exact specifics of, are this developer's note here, which say updates for Demon Hunter talents are in progress, but we're not ready for testing just yet. Goals for the updates include improving pathing and connections in the class tree, addressing underused talents, increasing access to key havoc, blah, 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 improving Vengeance's sigil related talents as a possible build identity or to be incorporated into other builds more successfully, and adding a couple new talents that help achieve those goals. That's foreshadowing for when we get to the tanks tier set bonuses. Now, before we do that, I had something else that I wanted to look at because I think this also is relevant to tank tier set bonuses, and that is the legendary weapon being added in this patch. It's a strength 2-hander, so immediately, right off the bat, we know Blood DK, stonks. Blood DK is up. Blood DK is looking like it's gonna be a front runner for next raid tier next season, just because of they get a legendary weapon none of the other tanks do, unless you want to play DPS, but then you're not a tank, are you, doofus? Now let's actually look at the tier set bonuses. And I was going to do a tier list, but it's a little preliminary, and a lot of this stuff is a bit uncertain, as evidenced by this first bonus here. Blood DK, consuming a blood shield charge, has a chance. What's the chance? To cause your next heart strike to apply Ashen Decay, reducing damage dealt to you by 10% and increasing your damage dealt to afflicted targets by 20% for 8 seconds. And now this is interesting, like consuming a bone shield charge, that has the unfortunate requirement of needing to be auto attacked by an enemy. So this is like yet another bonus for Blood DK that doesn't function if you're not actively tanking, or if you're tanking like a spellcaster, doesn't work for that either. So that's a little annoying. The 4-piece bonus makes it so that Soul Reapers execute damage, which you don't generally use Soul Reaper as a Blood DK. So this is sort of an attempt by Blizzard to put their thumb on the scale when it comes to certain talents. They're kind of trying to push you in a direction talent wise. And we're going to see this through all of the tier set bonuses, which I think is pretty interesting. I just don't like it with Soul Reaper specifically because it's such a terrible talent to use. It really doesn't fit into your keybind structure as a Blood DK. And I'm not thrilled about the potential of using it, but Soul Reapers execute damage and A-Bomb Limbs damage apply Ashen Decay to enemy targets, and Heartstrike and Blood Boil's direct damage extends Ashen Decay by 1 second. So Ashen Decay, depending on what that proc chance is from consuming a Bone Shield charge here, you know, what is this chance? Causing your next Heartstrike to apply Ashen Decay, reducing damage dealt to you by 10% and increasing your damage dealt by 20% for 8 seconds. That is really, really good. Now, if it's like, it's probably going to be a tuned proc rate, you know, a real proc per minute of like 1. If it's 1 proc per minute, that kind of sucks. If it's like 3, then this is buck wild. If it's 2, I think this is pretty good, and getting guaranteed procs in AoE with A-Bomb Limb at the start of pulls is going to be really, really strong. Being able to extend the duration with Heartstrike and Blood Boil is also really strong. So I think this has a potential to be an extremely, extremely strong pair of bonuses in the next season that increases your damage output, increases your damage reduction, and basically does everything you want as a Blood DK. And the only real downside I see to it is this consuming a Bone Shield charge has a chance. Like, you do actually have to be tanking something that auto attacks. But I can live with that. I think this is a really good bonus for Blood DK. Also, something I kind of wanted to establish before I got into these, but it's fine, is that generally we've seen throughout this expansion that the tuning on 2 pieces is that they add about 2 to 4% more damage, and 4 pieces add about 4 to 6% more damage. That's not a hard and fast rule at all, especially with tanks. Like, tanks damage can vary quite a lot more than DPS, but about 2 to 4 for a 2-piece, about 4 to 6 for a 4-piece. That'll come up later when we get to Monk for sure. Vengeance at the moment is in great shape, but it's being pretty hard carried by an amazing 2 and 4-piece set bonus where you get just a ton of damage output from your 2-piece. You get a ton of defensive cooldown uptime from your 4-piece, and that unfortunately is going away in favor of this 2 and 4-piece bonus. Sigil of Flame's periodic damage has a chance to flare up. Again, what's the chance? We don't know. Shattering an additional soul fragment from a target and dealing additional damage. We don't know if this is going to be like an actual chance, or if it'll be, again, like a real procs per minute where you get like 2 procs per minute of this. Because if it is like a 20% chance, this is pretty valuable in AoE. If it's RPPM, then it's going to have the same value in AoE as it does its single target. Each 40 Fury you spend reduces the cooldown of Sigil of Flame by 1 second. At present, this isn't great. This means that you're going to be shaving maybe 5 seconds off the cooldown of Sigil of Flame, 5 to 8 seconds, depending on whether you're tanking in single target or AoE, basically what your talents are and so on. However, this ties back into those Demon Hunter talents that they said. Depending on what they do here, this could actually have pretty good value. I did really like the old like BFA play style of Demon Hunter where you would set a Sigil of Flame when you cast Infernal Strike. That was one of my favorite play styles of all time. So you were perpetually keeping Sigil of Flame up, like literally 100% of the time keeping Sigil of Flame up. You used, I believe it was called Cycle of Binding, which was an Azurite armor trait at the time. Oh god, I do not miss Azurite armor, but Cycle of Binding was a good bonus. It gave you a major agility buff every time you cast a Sigil. It made you just do like a lot more damage, and then I think it gave you cooldown reduction whenever you use a Sigil as well. So you had cooldown reduction on all of your Sigils. So your Sigil of Silence and your Sigil of Misery, whatever the fear one is, and even Sigil of Chains was usable because they were all on these really short cooldowns because you were casting Sigil of Flame over and over and over again. Every time you would Infernal Strike, like an 8-second cooldown, and then also hard casting Sigil of Flame. You just had all of this cooldown reduction on all your Sigils, and you're getting this big damage bonus out of it, and it was really nice. So if they lean back in that direction, I think that's pretty sweet, and I think that could be the gateway to Vengeance Demon Hunter still being really good without having any of the current tier set bonuses. If they don't do that and they just make it like Sigil of Flame does damage, sometimes you get an extra soul fragment and a little bit of extra damage and some cooldown reduction. It's like an 18-second cooldown, and that's it, and there's no interaction with the other sigils. I don't think that's great. Here's the 4-piece bonus, and this does kind of make me think that they will go in that direction where they will lean toward having close to 100% uptime on Sigil of Flame. When you attack a target afflicted by Sigil of Flame, your damage and healing are increased by 2%, and your max health is increased by 2% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 5. So if you can actually maintain 100% Sigil of Flame uptime, this will give you 10% damage and healing and 10% max health. It's a short window. I could see them changing this. I could see them not changing this. I could go either way, and really it just depends on whether Sigil of Flame has 100% uptime or close to it or not. Because if this is a bonus that's stacking up and falling off and stacking up and falling off, then this sucks. If this is a bonus you're able to keep up all the time, I mean, this is damn good. 10% damage, 10% healing, especially on a Demon Hunter, 10% health is amazing. It's, you know, like better than current Bear Druid bonuses. So we'll see, but Vengeance Demon Hunter could be way down, and it could be up even from where it's at. It could be better. Now let's look at Bear Druid. Bear Druid currently has some pretty great bonuses where they just get like a lot of rage generation and damage. And now here we have another talent oriented tier set bonus. 20% of your damage and healing and 100% of the armor you gain during Rage of the Sleeper fuel the growth of Dream Thorns, which wreathe you in protection after Rage of the Sleeper expires, absorbing 10% of the damage dealt to you while the thorns remain. Very weird that it is a purely defensive tier set bonus. I mean, literally, look, there's no offensive value at all in this 2-piece. And it's very strange considering it's called Dream Thorns, but then it's purely a shield. Very weird, but this is also requires Rage of the Sleeper. So like just a very strange tier set bonus and not good. I want to be clear here. I don't think it's good. Now, 100% of the armor you gain during Rage of the Sleeper, that's fine. That just means like all the Iron Furs you cast during Rage of the Sleeper, which is a little bit at odds with the way that you would kind of want to play during Rage of the Sleeper, especially in AoE. You would be wanting to hit raids a whole bunch during that and really not casting Iron Fur all that much. You know, a couple of Iron Furs, but you're going to be gaining, I don't know, maybe 100,000 armor during Rage of the Sleeper if you're pretty aggressively hitting Iron Fur. It's not a great shield, but the damage and healing could be a great shield. So it's okay. 10% damage reduction spread over a long period of time is really not that great. The 4-piece bonus makes the 2-piece bonus a lot better, which is something that like I'm never really that thrilled about. Like a 2-piece bonus that sucks until you get the 4-piece bonus is always kind of irritating. And this kind of comes back to the thing I said in the last video I put out, where it seems like they have Bear Druid in their sniper scope and they're ready to blast them in the face. They didn't do any specific nerfs to Bear Druid, but this tier set bonus is a nerf. This tier set bonus is undeniably a nerf. And here's a 4-piece bonus. Each 40 rage you spend while Rage of the Sleeper is active extends its duration by 1 second up to 5. So this is pretty easy. So now Rage of the Sleeper becomes 15 seconds. That makes the 2-piece bonus a lot stronger. And your Dream Thorns become Blazing Thorns, causing damage absorbed to be reflected at the attacker. So now you have this incentive for just casting as many Iron Furs and as many raises and so on during the Rage of the Sleeper uptime window. Getting 5 extra seconds on Rage of the Sleeper is really good. So this 4-piece bonus is great. The 2-piece bonus is butt cheeks. Together, they're okay. It's weird that you have 2 different talents, or I should say 2 different tier set bonuses that are contingent on 1 talent. That being said, getting 15 seconds of uptime on Rage of the Sleeper, which is a 1-minute cooldown, where you also have like pretty high uptime on Bark Skin, you have pretty good uptime on Incarnation. Like Bear Druid is kind of trending in the direction of current Vengeance Demon Hunter or current Protection Paladin, where you just have like really, really high uptime on your defensive cooldowns and they're really strong. And then you have the added positive that Bear Druid is strong as hell outside of its defensive cooldowns. And that's true even without the current tier set bonuses. So I do think that this tier set bonus is kind of a nerf to Bear Druid. I think that they're probably, you know, there's a lot of certainty in this tier set bonus, unlike there is in the Vengeance one or the Blood Decay one. And it's not great, but it's fine. Bear Druid, I think at current tuning could still be the top tank. It could be sliding down a bit. Vengeance Demon Hunter could absolutely be the top tank. Blood Decay could be the top tank. They could also be trending downward a bit. I'm pretty sure Blood Decay is not trending downward, but Vengeance could be. So now let's look at Paladin. I'm not a fan of Paladin tier set bonuses, just ahead of time here. Judgment grants a stack of Sanctification, increasing your armor by 1% per stack. You will not notice this buff. Upon reaching 10 stacks, your next cast of Consecration is empowered, increasing its damage and healing by 200% and its radius by 30%. Sanctification stacks are reset when your empowered Consecration ends. 10 judgments takes, you're casting judgment every 3.5-4 seconds. So that's going to take like 30 seconds. You're going to get an empowered consecration. Empowered consecration will last, like every consecration, like 12 seconds or so. So you're getting like 45% uptime on this. You're also losing the amazing current tier set bonuses that give you the ability to proc Grand Crusader with your judgment. So your judgment cooldown is actually going to go up. It's probably going to be more like 4 seconds. So every 40 seconds you get an empowered consecration. I don't like this tier set bonus at all. I mean, for one, 1% armor per stack. go to hell. No one is going to notice 1% armor per stack. This sucks. The Empowered Consecration is interesting. The fact that it is like basically a 40-second cooldown to get it is not. 30% radius also is a little underwhelming. I would like this to be like 100% radius. I really want the Empowered Consecration to be huge. And 30% more radius is not gigantic. It's bigger. I want it to be enormous. I want it to be like an Ashen Hallow. I want it to be like large enough that you could fit a bus in it without touching either side. So that's not great. And the fact that that clears your buff is also like pretty underwhelming. And then the 4-piece, while you're within an Empowered Consecration, your abilities have a chance to deal 20% bonus damage or healing as fire. We don't know what the chance is. It could be 1%. It could be 100%. We don't know. It's probably going to be tuned to be like, let's say a 50% chance. So you're going to have 40% uptime on the 2-piece and then a 50% chance to do 20% bonus damage in the 4-piece, in the Empowered Consecration. So that's like 10% uptime while this 2-piece is active, and this is up about 10% or 40% of the time. So you're getting about 4% more damage from the 4-piece. No damage reduction. The 2-piece is granting you a whopping up to 10% armor of damage reduction value that you will not notice. And this sucks. This is terrible. So I think this is their way of nerfing the hell out of Prop Pally. The only way that I could see this being any good is if they go, oh, actually, let's fix this radius. And then there are some fights where you have to move around and that radius increase is meaningful in the next raid, like on a fight by fight basis. Otherwise, I'm pretty irritated by this set of bonuses. I just think it's really underwhelming. And that's not great. Now, if this were changed to be like damage reduction instead of armor, we're great. 10% damage reduction, that would be all right. But 10% armor, that ain't nothing. That sucks. Okay, we've moved on to Monk. The 2-piece bonus for Brewmaster Monk makes it so that your Breath of Fire deals 20% bonus damage of Shadow Flame. That's not a great damage bonus, but it at least is an amount that we can know, and it causes you to heal for 50% of all fire damage dealt. All right, so here I have a log from a recent Echo of Neltharion kill on my monk, and depending on whether this is 50% of all the damage you deal with Breath of Fire, which, is not a lot, or 50% of all the fire damage you deal total, including item effects like fire damage trinkets and fire damage weapon, or if it's just all the fire damage you deal with spells. Those are really the 3 options. Pretty sure it's not going to include trinkets and weapons and enchants and stuff. But if it includes Exploding Keg, if it includes Charred Passions, as well as just basic Breath of Fire, then I think this is an okay amount of healing. Not like a huge amount, but Brewmaster Monk can always use more healing, and every little trickle of healing helps. If it's just the healing for Breath of Fire, this sucks. It's like 1,500 healing or something. It's not any good. Yeah, it's a pretty basic bonus, so there is that at least. And if this isn't a great 2-piece bonus, which, currently it isn't, there's a potential that you could just tune the numbers up. Like, I think that the design is fine. You're going to have 100% uptime on Breath of Fire. You're going to be hitting Breath of Fire every time it's available. Not immediately upon it being available, but generally speaking, you are going to, every time you've hit Keg Smash, you're going to hit Breath of Fire. That's pretty good. And you're not being pigeonholed into any talents here with this Brewmaster Monk tier set bonuses, which I appreciate. I think that's quite a bit better than some of the other stuff that we've seen. But, it rewards you for using the standard talent setup where you're taking Charred Passions and Sal Solemnum Strength and all of that. Like, it's not good numerically, but the design is totally reasonable, totally fine. The 4-piece bonus, your attacks against targets affected by Breath of Fire have a chance to deal 5% extra damage, as Shadow Flame in each Celestial Brew also grants a stagger absorb equal to the amount of Shadow Flame damage you have dealt, causing damage delayed by stagger to instead be prevented. Okay, this is a little weirdly phrased, and I like I said, I haven't logged in and played with this yet. We'll get more data on that soon. This is interesting because this implies to me that, like, as you have Breath of Fire on targets, you're going to be building up a stacking buff, and then when you hit Celestial Brew, that stacking buff will be consumed to give you basically a second shield that also eats stagger damage, in addition to the Celestial Brew protecting your health pool. Basically, this just throws a bunch of extra damage reduction into your Celestial Brew. That's great. Additionally, your attacks against targets affected by Breath of Fire have a chance. What's the chance? To deal 5% extra damage to Shadow Flame. So if we're going off of what we normally expect the tuning of a 4-piece bonus to be, this chance, 100%. 5% extra damage to Shadow Flame, like, that would be a normal 4-piece bonus. If it's less, if it's 50% chance, that's 2.5% extra damage as a 4-piece bonus. That sucks. If it's 25% chance, then it's, it's 1.25% extra damage as a 4-piece. That super sucks. If it's like 80%, that's 4% extra damage. It's on the lower end, but it's fine and it has some defensive value. In general, I like the monk tier set bonuses a lot more than the druid ones because they're not reliant on each other to function. The 2-piece bonus, it's totally fine. It's not life-changing. You don't need it to play the class, but it works pretty well. And the 4-piece bonus, you can say the same thing. And there is some uncertainty, but I think we can reasonably assume that the chance here is somewhere between 75 and 100%, because if it's less than that, then this number would need to be tuned up to be like 10 or 15 or 20. And I kind of would rather it just be 100%. You deal extra damage all the time. It's super consistent. You know what it is. But, game designers, they always like to add some level of RNG, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the chance knocked down and the value knocked up. It should be bumped up if the chance is below 100%, though, because right now the damage tuning here is already on the low end, even if there was no chance at all. So that's where we're at. Certainly, this obliterates the horrible Pally tier set bonuses. I think this is better than the Bear Druid set bonuses. This could be better than the Demon Hunter set bonuses if they're bad. It's worse if they're good. And the Blood DK set bonuses, I think, are clearly better than this. So right now, if we're doing a tier list, let's just do let's flashbang. Hello, how are your retinas? All right. Tank tier list. BDK, BDH, Monk, Druid, Paladin. We'll put garbage, fire, more garbage, literally the worst tier set bonus you've ever seen. All right. And so we'll do potential VDH up top, if I can type, and we'll do worst case here. So right now, this is what it's looking like. Vengeance Demon Hunter could be the best. Blood DK could be the best. Vengeance Demon Hunter could be like a little lower. Maybe they could even be worse than Monk. If it goes badly, I think they probably are worse than Monk. I don't think they're worse than Druid. I think they're right about tied with Druid in the sort of worst case scenario. And then now let's look at Warrior. Warrior's 2-piece bonus makes it so that Spending Rage has a chance. Again, what's the chance? Is the chance based on the points of rage you spend? Do you get a higher chance when you press Ignore Pain, which costs 35 rage, versus an Execute that costs 40, or Revenge that costs 20? Who knows? Spending Rage has a chance to cause your next Shield Slam to consume your bleeds on a target, instantly dealing 100% of remaining damage and reducing the target's damage dealt to you by 10% for 5 seconds. This is pretty interesting. This has the potential to be a really, really good snap damage dealing talent. It also gives you a lot of damage reduction. over a short span, which is pretty cool, and it synergizes nicely with talents that you already definitely use as a prot warrior. We're talking these right here. Rend, which you're applying with Thunderclap. Over here, Blood and Thunder you're taking. That applies Rend, and then you're also always taking Thunderous Roar as a prot warrior. So you're getting Thunderous Roar applied, during your cooldowns. You're getting Blood and Thunder applying this here Rend, and then wherever Deep Wounds is, it's one of those things where you don't even think about it because you just played the class so long. But whatever, you're applying Deep Wounds with your Devastates, so technically Devastator, and your Revenge. So this is pretty good. It'll depend on what the chance is, but it seems like it's pretty good. And now here's the 4-piece bonus. When your bleeds are consumed on a target, their damage dealt to you is reduced by an additional 2% per bleed consumed. So sort of a bare minimum of 2 bleeds are going to be on any target at a time. And if they have Thunderous Roar on them, that'll be 3. So you're getting at least 14% damage reduction, potentially 16. The cooldown of Thunderclap is instantly reset, so you can immediately reapply Rend. And the cooldown of Thunderous Roar is reduced by 1 second. Now, 1 second is weird. It's a 90-second base cooldown. And then usually you'll be talented into Uproar in raids, although in Mythic Plus you will be taking Shockwave. So it'll be a 90-second cooldown in Mythic Plus. It'll be a 60-second cooldown in raid. So to get 1 second of cooldown reduction is just strange. Now, if it was like 1 second per bleed, so 2 seconds or 3 seconds of cooldown reduction, that maybe would be something. If you're popping those bleeds off like every 10 seconds or so, that's 10% cooldown reduction on Thunderous Roar. That brings it from 60 seconds to 54. That's interesting. I wouldn't say it's great. If you're proccing this every 5 seconds, that seems pretty unrealistic, but that would be 20% cooldown reduction on Thunderous Roar. You're bringing that 60-second cooldown down to 48. That's pretty good. It's an interesting idea. Certainly the bringing this 10% damage reduction up to 14 or 16% is really, really good. And really it boils down to what this chance winds up being. But this has potential to be one of the single best tier set bonuses in this list. Right now, I don't... Flashbang. Oh, my God. Right now, I wouldn't put it at the absolute top, but I think it's basically tied with Blood Decay for being very, very, very good. So I think that we would do something like this. S tier. A plus tier. A minus tier. We're going to go B tier. B minus tier. Honestly, maybe I'm undervaluing Druid just simply because it does give you so much cooldown reduction. Maybe Bear Druid actually is in better shape than I'm giving it credit for. It's like B plus. It's definitely a step down from the current tier set bonuses for Bear Druid, but honestly, it's not bad. I could see VDH being kind of a B minus. And then Paladin is in dumpster tier. Dumpster minus. There we go. So that's our tank tier list for the 6 tanks tier set bonuses. Vengeance Demon Hunter literally has potential to be getting buffed from their already insane tier set bonuses, but it also might be kind of mid. I think Blood Decay and Warrior are in pretty great shape, regardless of what those chances are, unless there's something that is criminally undertuned. I think they're in really good shape. Monk is in pretty good shape as well. Just to reiterate on Blood Decay, the only thing that I don't like about Blood Decay at all is this line right here. Soul Reaper's execute damage. No, go to hell. I'm not interested in running Soul Reaper. Please don't incentivize that garbage. Monk is in pretty good shape. The tuning on it right now is a little questionable just because there's a chance in the 4-piece, but I think that the design is actually pretty solid. It's a nice combination of damage, healing, and damage reduction. Those are all things you want as a tank, so that's pretty appealing. Bear Druid is decent. The 2-piece bonus is really bad on its own, and that really is the problem here. The 4-piece bonus gives you cooldown reduction, it gives you damage reduction, and gives you cooldown uptime. That's all. I guess it doesn't give you cooldown reduction, it gives you cooldown uptime. But yeah, that's all pretty good. It's a good package once you have the full 4-piece, but the 2-piece bonus on its own is pretty bad. And then the Demon Hunter situation really is just reliant on how much Sigil of Flame uptime you're going to have. If you're having that 4-piece bonus stay up all the time, where you're having 10% damage and healing and health, Vengeance Demon Hunter owns. If you don't have 100% uptime, if it's rolling up and then falling off and rolling up and falling off, that's terrible. It's not as bad as Paladin, though, where you have up to 10% armor and then your Consecrate does more damage and healing. And the healing would presumably, but not necessarily, mean this garbage over here, Golden Path, where you get like 3,000 healing every second out of your Consecration. So now instead of 3,000 healing, it could be 9,000 healing on like a 40-second cooldown. Sick, man. Thank you, Blizzard. Awful. Just awful. This needs to go completely back to the drawing board. I hate the hell out of this Paladin tier set bonus. But that being said, you know, there are like numbers that they could do. They could take some number tuning. They could make it so that this radius is just like 300%. It's just like the size of an Olympic swimming pool. And instead of armor, it's like damage and healing and damage reduction. And then maybe it goes up to 8 stacks or something. And then it's great. Then it's completely fixed and the problems are all gone away. Alrighty, that's it. I am very excited about this tier, or this new patch. There's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about in it. This is just kind of the first thing that really tickled my fancy. That's not a phrase I use. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to talking a lot about all the other stuff that's coming down the pipe. Like, hopefully some tank changes, although frankly, I think we kind of got a little spoiled by having them all come early on in hotfixes. And tank balance is actually pretty good, even though I made the joke about, oh, it's perfect, they didn't need to change anything. It's actually pretty good already. And I think that these tier set bonuses are kind of doing a lot of the job of moving things around. So, you know, we'll see what the future holds. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.